Performance Phase. I am Aubrey. And I'm Mike. So today, Mike, we are going to talk about the racial origins of fat phobia and how that relates to the mammy trope, Lizzo hate, and is that outfit good or are they just thin and attractive? Sabrina Strings' book, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia, she discusses the ways fat phobia goes back hundreds of years, where there was a very noticeable shift in attitudes towards plus-size body, and this coincided with the growth of the slave trade. A lot of racist French philosophers started theorizing about black people, white people, and their bodies, and they came to the conclusion that Africans were apparently too sensuous. They ate too much and they had too much sex, and that's why they were plus size. Even though at the time, a majority of women were plus size, they came to the conclusion that European people were the only people in the world with self-control and that they were the elite race of the world, and they needed to prove that they were the only race in the world with self-control by restricting their diets and making sure they were slim. It's always good when you make a system for evaluating humanity and you come on top. It's like if I decided people named Michael were actually the coolest and funniest people. Sorry, the evidence just points in that direction. This kind of character on the morality of eating and fatness is related to the mammy stereotype. The mammy caricature was artificially fattened up in popular culture, and this body was also a symbol of revisionist history, of a South that had fed and treated its enslaved people generously, and that black people actually like being slaves. These stereotypes serve to prove how society deliberately tries to exclude black women from ever being viewed as beautiful in the popular culture. Dude, and it's wild to me that these stereotypes have stayed around so long, that they've literally been in our pantries and it's only changed a couple years ago. But even modern TV and film productions can still perpetuate aspects of the mammy trope in their characters. The modern trope of the black best friend can be seen as a partial descendant of the mammy, since this character's role is to constantly provide support and tough love to the white main character. Also, the mammy trope isn't even true, as historians have found little evidence to substantiate the idea that enslaved black women were even commonly working in the home. Those who were assigned to housework tended to be light-skinned, skinny, and quite young. Aggressively desexualizing the mammy helped to conceal the fact that many house slaves were frequently sexually abused. We can see this intersectionality between fatness and racism present today when we read about the increased mortality black women face, supposedly because of their weight, despite research showing that stress related to racism, sexism, fat phobia, and other social mistreatments could be to blame for early death, and that it doesn't necessarily have to do with their physical weight at all. And my friend, that brings us to the vitriol you will see about Lizzo on the internet. So Nina Cartier's Black Women on Screen as Feature Text, we see how Lizzo mainly faces criticism from a so-called moral ground of the classic comeback of glorifying obesity. Yes, and then just Lizzo on a bike. Exactly. So I'm gonna send you a quote to read. And we can see Lizzo falling into this future text, as a lot of her songs are about being sexual and having romantic relationships, and the cover of the album is her sitting naked. And she is doing all this with a historically desexualized body. We can see how Lizzo is embodying a future state of showing she deserves to take up space and is choosing to be sexual and desired when she wants to be. Unfortunately, it's all these fatphobic comments that keep a lot of people from this future state. Yeah, because whenever there's a smidge of social progress, there's always reactionaries who say this is an overhauled society and we need to go back to old times. Also, as if the constant shaming of fatness and demonizing fat characters isn't unglorifying fatness enough, it's just giving a more justification for being scum who dehumanize people. Yes, and we have conveniently as a culture collapsed health into our visual assessment of our own weight. One reason that absolutely hoax of a standard BMI is often disputed is because there are so many societal and environmental factors which influence your weight. Ew, yes, the BMI, where if you cut off your leg, you go from obese to normal, the quickest way to be healthy. And also, recent studies show that black women tend to be healthier at a heavier weight and that cross-racially, BMI does not work. Brings us to our last point of discussion, aesthetic trends. Trends as seen on Pinterest have started a conversation of, is this a good outfit or is she just skinny? As of 2011, 93% of women reported engaging in social fat talk, which was defined as the practice of expressing dissatisfaction with their own size or talk about feeling fat. And about people who engage in this kind of fat talk have like significantly weaker romantic relationships and friendships. So like relationships with all shapes are weakened by this. And you can see that TV and social media has sort of systematized and participated in the popularization of this phenomenon. With the trend of the Y2K coming back, these Pinterest aesthetics aren't particularly inclusive. Most of the goals you see with these aesthetics are no bigger than like a size 8 or 10. And this discussion reminds me of Caleb Zuma's article, 5 Ways That We Talk About Grindr Upholds Thin Privilege and Body Fascism. And one question I liked that they asked was, how can you interrogate your desires in a space that becomes an echo chamber of normativity? And how all these other factors that are taken for granted as natural bases of attraction are all just constructed. Factors like whiteness, muscularity, toned abs are flaunted as desired qualities in most queer media and the larger cultural spaces in general, including Grindr and many other geolocational sex and dating apps, and how they're talked about as if they are the obvious and objectively most attractive bodies, in a way that doesn't seem to leave room for people who aren't attracted to them. And like how they said, it's fine to be attracted to those normative bodies, but don't act like it's a niche or not as much as a fetish as the attraction to fatness is, because yeah, all of these things are not organic manifestations of sexual attraction. They're a built-up idea of what society believes as normal at the time. Exactly, that's a great point. There are unhealthy fat people and skinny people. The fundamental argument is that everyone is an individual and weight and health are two distinct concepts, and sometimes they overlap and sometimes they don't. What fat people need is for their basic humanity to be acknowledged in a medical system that actually asks them what they need. And with that, our podcast comes to an end. Thank you for listening to Performance Phase. Have a great day.